to Mother Russia. Hello folks, shintigercurl here, that dude in the straw hat, bringing you yet another wrestling video. Let me get a couple here. Well, tonight was Fastlane, the last pay-per-view before WrestleMania. So how did they do? Well, let's go through the matches one by one, and the segments one by one. The pre-show started with The Miz doing Miz TV. Mizdow still being the most overfucked in the entire arena, where Paul Heyman comes out and fucks your ears. That's right, when Paul Heyman gives promos, he is giving you the most succulent ear fuck that you will ever have. But yeah, other than that was the only interesting part of it. First match pitted Dolph Ziggler, Ryback, and Eric Rowan versus The Authority, made up of Rollins, Big Show, and Kane. I really gave no fucks about this match. Not to say that it was bad or it was good or anything, I just did not care. Why, you may ask? Because of the sudden build. It had the build of a, as my friend TWK of TWK Reviews, what's up T-Dub, says, this feels more like a Raw match than a than a pay-per-view match or a WWE Network match kind of match. I just didn't care. There was nothing about it that actually made me want to watch it for any extended period amount of time. There were some cool spots, but like I said, I just did not care for it. The Authority won. Like I said, didn't give a shit who won. And the only reason you should watch this match is for the ending, because just when it looks like that they were going to beat down our little gang of recently rehired wrestlers, the Apex Predator, Randy Orton, enters. He hits RKOs on everyone, and Seth Rollins is so scared of him that he runs all the way out of the arena. There you go. Next matchup, the Battle of the Dust Brothers. Stardust versus Goldust. Now, I liked this match going into it because it had a proper build to it. It showed over the weeks that Stardust was steadily declining, that he was slipping off the rails, that Cody Rhodes was vanishing and Stardust was getting more prevalent. Then Goldust tries to slap some sense into him, but then he goes nuts. So yeah, the match itself, I'm going to praise this match on its storytelling and psychology. It told a very interesting story. Don't get me wrong, the wrestling was great. Goldust has never looked better. He looks great for a guy his age. And Cody, well, of course, Cody's always been an amazing in-ring performer. Now, what I mean by psychology is it tells a story. Like you could tell, the best kind of wrestlers are ones who can tell a story without saying much or doing a lot of promos. And they told an excellent story here. Goldust simply wants his brother back. He wants Cody back. He doesn't want, he's going to have to beat it. Like he told his father, he's going to beat Stardust so bad that Cody is never going to want to put the makeup on again. And you could see in the match that even though Goldust is putting on a lot of offense against him, he can't really get at him because it's still his brother. And the crowd actually got into it too, which was amazing. They started chanting Cody, Cody, which was getting in his head, and you could see Stardust's face twist and contort, trying to block them out. But in the end, Goldust kind of sneaks a win over it, which I'm okay with, because this is just setting up for another match at Mania, which I know is going to be better. Later on, they have a backstage segment with Goldust and his father, Dusty Rhodes, and they're talking, and then Stardust comes out, and he cuts a scary-ass promo. It's a good promo, but it's a scary-ass one. He goes on, he rants about all the different incarnations of his own character that's gone through, from being the son of Dusty Rhodes, to being a member of Legacy, to being Dashing Cody Rhodes, to being Prince Cody Rhodes, to being Dr. Doom Cody Rhodes, all of it. And he wants to be Stardust, but he just can't. And I'm looking forward to the rematch. They're having a rematch at Mania, and it's going to be awesome. Next up, tag team match. The Usos versus the Masters of the Universe, Tyson Kidd and Antonio Cesaro. I wasn't going to give this match much of a chance. I'm glad I did, because this was an amazing fucking match. We had moves I never seen before, like a half one-legged swing into a half Boston Crab from Cesaro, and there was like a moment when Tyson Kidd goes over the ropes, and Jimmy catches him and turns it into an impromptu Samoan drop into the barricade. I never seen that move before. It was amazing. This was an amazing tag team match, and I'm glad I caught it. Also for the fact that my boys, Masters of the Universe, win the tag titles, which they so rightly deserve. Will they get a rematch at Mania? Never know. I hope so. I want to see them do it again. What else? If I'm getting the order wrong, please forgive me. Next up, we have the confrontation between Triple H and Sting. Triple H comes out in his combat attire, you know, black leather jacket, jeans, taped up fists, and calls out Sting. Sting comes out, and I'll tell you that right now, they're going old school with this Sting. You're not going to see no talking Sting or Joker Sting, thank God. This is old school WCW versus the NWO Sting, where he didn't say much, but that's the thing about Sting's silent period. He can say a lot without actually saying that much. And Triple H is saying stuff like, "Oh, I basically destroyed your company. My legacy is destroying your legacy," and talks about how he'll live on forever, part of the network, with merchandise and DVDs and specials about him, and maybe if he's a good little Stinger, Hall of Fame. Sting, of course, ain't buying that shit. And so Trips decided to go with the next part, beating the other villain piss out of him. He attacks him and then goes under the ring for the great equalizer, his hammer, his sledgehammer. But yeah, come on, Trips. You've watched WCW. You should know. Sting is almost never without his trusty bat. And so he puts the bat up to Triple H's chin to get him to back off. Then he points the WrestleMania sign. You'll see a lot of that happening in WrestleMania season, which signifies that he wants Triple H at Mania. Triple H finally agrees and tries to attack Sting from behind, but eats a bat and then eats a nice Scorpion Death Drop. And during the show, it is confirmed, the first confirmed match of WrestleMania. The Icon versus the Game. Steve Borton versus Paul Levesque. Baseball bat versus sledgehammer. That's right, Triple H versus Sting. It's going to be a good one. Next matchup. I'm trying to remember. Divas match. Paige versus Nikki Bella. I wanted to call this a piss break match, but I couldn't. On one hand, you got Paige. On the other hand, you got a Bella. Doesn't matter who it is, it's a Bella. It was passable, to say the least. I'm sorry, NXT has spoiled me on professional women's wrestling. The end comes from a very sloppy roll-up, small package, something that Nikki does and ends the match. It was bad, and I hate it, and I want to gouge my eyes out with a rusty spoon. I hate that. But anyway, enough of that. Next matchup, the one I wanted to call as match of the night, Dean Ambrose versus Wade Barrett for the Intercontinental title. This was a nice little brawl they had, a nice back and forth match. The two of them, very tough, very brawly individuals, and there were some nice moves involved in this. The end, I will say, comes when Dean Ambrose just snaps and just starts beating the piss out of Wade Barrett until the referee disqualifies him. Then he continues to beat down on him and steals the Intercontinental title. Now, I know there's a lot of people, especially on the CBR forums, who would say that this is a bullshit ending. I can say I'm okay with it. If this was any other pay-per-view, I would say that I would call bullshit on it. But since this is the pay-per-view before WrestleMania, everything that's happening now is building up to WrestleMania. That's how these papers. This is how No Mercy or No Escape or what is it? Elimination Chamber were all up to. This was the build-up pay-per-view to WrestleMania. So for this kind of thing to happen, I can let this go because they're gonna do it again at WrestleMania, and it's gonna be better. And hopefully it'll be some kind of stipulation match, like a ladder match or a street fight, something that will play to both of their strengths, so they can give a better show. These two are brawlers, basically, and this also gives me 5 more weeks of Dean Ambrose trolling. That's always good. So so it ends in a foobar way, but I can give it a pass because it's setting up for something. It's setting up for their rematch at WrestleMania. And plus, Wade Barrett's got to get his belt back. Next up, another title match. Rusev defends the U.S. title against John Cena. This was a pretty damn good match. Rusev more than shows that he belongs in the upper echelon of the WWE. Maybe even one day he'll be even in the main event picture. John Cena still shows that he can still keep going, which is okay with me. They were going back and forth, trading submissions, with them powering out of each other's submissions. Like I said, this was an amazing back and forth match. The ending, I'm glad I got wrong. So what happens was, Rusev has Cena in the Accolade. Cena tries to get out. Rusev keeps powering him back in. Lana runs over and gets the U.S. title and gets in the ring. Just as Cena gets to his feet with Rusev on his back, Rusev slides off his back and kicks him square in the nuts. He then kicks Cena in the face just as the ref is getting Lana out of the ring and locks him in the Accolade. By this point, Cena is unconscious. There is nothing he can do. And so the ref calls it. Rusev wins, hence the beginning of the video. I'm happy for this because John Cena does not need a win. He not only doesn't need a win over Rusev and end the streak, he doesn't need the U.S. title. He's had the U.S. title. He doesn't need it. It's beneath him now. For him to win it would be pointless. And for him to do that on Rusev would just kill any kind of momentum he has. Rusev is the second best built heel in the entire company, next to Brock Lesnar, because Rusev has spent the better part of 6 months destroying anyone who thought they could get in his way, including 6 former world champions. So there's that. If anyone is going to beat him, it's going to have to be somebody who needs the belt, who needs that kind of push. John Cena doesn't need it. He can take the loss. Rusev can't. And John walks back dejected and completely white. Now for the main event. Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan. Winner becomes the next victim. I mean the next #1 contender for the one-man crime spree, nature's perfect predator, the man who is beyond, the walking death sentence, the living genocide, the killer of killers, the breaker of worlds, the destroyer of hope, Brock Lesnar. I will say this was not a good match for Roman Reigns because this only highlights that he ain't ready. He got some offense in, but Bryan pretty much carried this match. He carried it to a good match. This was a good match, but only because Daniel Bryan can carry him to a good match. I mean, he exhausted all of his offense early, but most of the time it was just Bryan wrestling him and using moves and holds and submissions, while Reigns was just using pure power. Now, for those of you who heard my appearance on the WrestleCast and you heard what I said concerning this match on how it can be good, I said that the only way for this to be an acceptable match, the only way I can accept Roman Reigns winning is if he was a heel, because he cannot go over on Daniel Bryan as a face. That's just a fact of the matter. The fans do not support him enough to go over on the biggest face of the company in Daniel Bryan, which he does. Roman Reigns wins this, and the fans don't even give a shit. We knew it was coming. We knew this was going to happen. I said there were two ways to do this: the smart way and the dumb way. And unfortunately, there was a 95% chance of them doing the dumb way. And this was the dumb way. Nobody cares. As another person on CBR forums said that he hopes that Roman Reigns will be the next beast. No. No. And I tell you what, Roman Reigns, despite this is be telling on how bad his push has been. Roman Reigns has had way more matches than Brock Lesnar, and yet Brock is still more believable as an unstoppable beast than Roman Reigns is. Why? Because his push has been abysmal. The last time he was in a match on Raw, he beat Kane by countout. You don't want to, if you're building up a main event talent to go up against the biggest main event star that the WWE has had in a long time, in the biggest show of the year, he better be looking like a fucking juggernaut. And he can't beat Kane clean. He has to resort to a countout. And even he had a lot of problems dealing with fucking Daniel Bryan. This made Roman look good that he won, but it didn't make him look strong. And he needs to look strong. I mentioned this in my Royal Rumble video weeks and weeks and weeks back, that they have 2 months to build him up, to work on him, to get him ready in all the areas he needs to get ready, because as it stood when he won, he was not ready to fight Brock Lesnar. And as it stands right now, 5 weeks away from WrestleMania, I don't buy him winning or legitimately going over on Brock Lesnar in a believable fashion. The only way this can change is if they have Roman Reigns just steamroll through a bunch of jabronis for the next 5 weeks. So 5 weeks, 2 shows with Raw and SmackDown. That's 10 shows. 10 shows. Raw is 3 hours. SmackDown is 2 hours. That's 5 hours. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 hours of on-screen TV time to get Roman Reigns where he needs to be. So I'm not saying I'm upset over it. I'm not gonna sit here and rage that that Bryan should have won. I'm just saying they could have done better. The sad part about it is that shit. Stop writing his promos, Vince. But overall, this was a better pay-per-view than I actually thought. There were some pretty good matches on here, and some pretty good segments. There was also a segment where Bray Wyatt came out to the Undertaker's kind of music and appeared out of his casket and made it official that he's challenging the Undertaker. Big question is, does the dead man have it in him to actually wrestle another match, especially against a guy like Bray Wyatt? We'll never know. So, that's my thoughts on Fastlane. Like what you see? Got any questions? Let me know. Just leave a comment below. Like, comment, subscribe. Share this video with your friends. Do whatever you want. Or if you want me to answer some questions, shoot me a PM or leave a message in the comments. That's all you got to do. So until next time, this is shintigercurl, that dude in the straw hat, saying good night and glory to Mother Russia.